You know every damn person above you, male and female. And when you became a senior, you know a damn person below you. So first, let me take care of the young people. Monique, where are you? Where's Monique? Oh, stand up, Monique. You're a celebrity today. Turn around and wave your hand to the people. That's it. Monique is going to write a paper on Tuskegee Airman. So this is from Monique. And then, where's Gillead? Where's Gillead? He's an aspiring, I don't know, no, suborbital space or space. We don't fly planes anymore. We go by rockets. Yeah, I got that straight. Now, Harold gave you information that happened to him when the war ended. And now we go back now to how it all began. In 1938, the government passed the civil pilot training program among the colleges, and no black college was included. Hitler was known his saber rattling for some time, and the black press was indicating that we wanted the blacks not to be treated in World War II and fight with their country like everybody else. During World War II, the blacks fought with the French. Blacks did not fight in combat with the white Americans. And the leading press at the time were drumming up the thing that we were not going to, we were against having the blacks fight not with the white Americans. So that becomes a political situation. So Congress passed two pieces of legislation in April of 1939, which was to expand the Army Air Corps. And then in June 1939, they passed the Civil Pilot Training Act to develop a reserve of civilian pilots in the event of a war emergency. You with me? Mm-hmm. Okay. General Arnold, good white West Point male Christian, didn't want blacks in his Air Force because there were no white outfits in his Air Force, so there was no need to have them. So now you see how we began. So almost for 2 years, he's zigzagging and trying to avoid everything else until it finally came to him that he had to do it. I can't explain this. I don't think you researched it, but coincidentally, for whatever it's worth, the blacks who had applied to become pilots in the Army Air Corps were refused, one after the other. Now, this is some history you may not know about. Howard University was probably the most popular university at the time. But remember, look at his complexion, look at my complexion. It's significant. So they were now trying to get the War Department to let blacks come into the Air Corps. And Howard University with the NAACP people trying to find a candidate to send. Now you have to remember that you have to go back to slavery, and most of the light-complected blacks were from white fathers, some were from white mothers. That's the reality. So you set up a separate situation on the Lynch, those of you know about the Lynch letter, about separating the blacks and making them fight against one another. So that continued. So for whatever it was, and this is the mid-1939s, mid-30s, in 1939, they were trying to get a black person who they could challenge in court against the War Department for why they refused his application to become a cadet. And they went through a list of people, and this is what I want to bring out. They had at first 3 or 4 blacks my complexion. And they finally settled up with this gentleman. I can't think of his name. God dog, but maybe someone, but he became the one they put. Now this was on the 16th of April 1941. And they brought a show cause order in the federal court of Washington, D.C. to show why, the War Department, to show why you didn't accept the application of the 100 and some odd blacks who had applied for it, and they used him as the complainant, the plaintiff, right? And so incidentally, I don't know whether this seemed to be pretty true. Coming the other way the same date was the War Department, which filed to the press to indicate the 99 that they were going to allow blacks enter into the Army Air Corps, and they were going to establish the 99th Pursuit Squadron, January 1941. It went that way. It wasn't because of the result of the filing the paper. And now they made the announcement in January 17th that blacks were allowed to participate in the Army Air Corps. Well, then they indicated they were going to establish the primary, the point is, this began the introduction of blacks into civilian and military aviation. That's lost. Ms. Webb, what you said in your paper was pretty well written. It touches on that. So now you have the blacks on a civilian track and on a military track. Forget the civilian, because you really don't hear about them anymore. But we don't have time to talk about that, so we get to the military. And then in March 22nd, 1941, they activated the 99th Pursuit Squadron. That's March 22nd. And beginning on March 23rd, they sent out information to all the colleges around the country that they were now going to allow blacks to enlist into the Army Air Corps for technical training. The country is divided into 9 corps areas. And we're in the 9th Corps area here. I'm a native New Yorker, born and raised in Midtown Manhattan, where the Lincoln Center of the Performing Arts is located. They gentrified our low-income Irish and black neighborhood to add the Lincoln Center to our community. It's still standing. It's some of the houses that was there. And it so happened that when the announcement came, a high school student of mine who was going to the College of the City in New York had received this information. And he called out to me across the street and told me that we could enlist in the Army Air Corps. And the next day, we went to Mitchell Field, New York, in Long Island, and to apply. And after you went through the physical and mental testing, etc., then you were enlisted. So it took until April 2nd when I enlisted in the Army Air Corps at Mitchell Field, New York, and in a couple of weeks we were shipped. As well as in the other 9 corps areas, only 7 of them blacks responded, and all assembled at Chanute Field, Rantoul, Illinois, in the early part of April 1941. And that began the 99th Pursuit Squadron. There were 290 blacks who volunteered to get technical training, plus 1 National Guard from New York City. And they received the technical training. In addition, there were 5 black cadets who were getting technical training and to become officers. Then there were 5 white officers. And then there were about 100 draftees drawn from around the country, the same as the ones for technical training were drawn together to do the house cleaning while we went to school to get technical training. And it took 7 months to complete this experiment, at least the training of this experiment. So we started in April and graduated in October 1941. And now this is also from my young representative there. That made up 4, and this is the distinction, who I am and how you relate to everybody else. I am one of the 401 original Tuskegee Airmen of the 99th Pursuit Squadron, spring of 1941, pre-Pearl Harbor. Now you can measure everybody from that.
This is LeRoy.
Now, being the kind of species we are, recognition seems about the #1 thing that bothers us, to be recognized. See me, whatever it is you do. And we do, you see all the things people do to get that recognition. Well, I don't need to do that because I'm real. I'm one of the original Tuskegee Airmen.
So the buck stops
no,
here.
not yet. Oh, yeah, oh, you all working? Okay, I yield. But at least you got some of the background now. And the story will never be told because they didn't keep accurate information. We have information coming from the Historical Agency of the University of the Air Force in Montgomery, debunking some information which, when they gave it out, it was true. But now they did some research, they find that it wasn't true, and they want to, what I would say, debunk it anyhow. Example, quickly. You have the reputation that the Red Tail had 200 missions without losing a bomb on the escort. At the time they promulgated that was true. But now they did some research, 70 years later, against Lucas because they got something against him and his filmability, or against the fact that there's no white group had the record we had in order to get the Congressional Gold Medal? Why do you come out this late to do that?
Right.
And that's what's happening right now. So you see, the fight goes on. Your turn.